Today we're going to start our conversation about sentence diagrams with the very basics, subjects and predicates. So let's get started. A sentence diagram is a visual representation of the words and parts of a sentence. A diagram shows how sentence elements relate to each other and to the sentence as a whole. A diagram frame, like the one shown here, is the starting point for diagramming sentences. You make a vertical line that is equally long above and below the baseline. Every sentence has two parts, a subject and a predicate. The subject tells what the sentence is about. The predicate says something about the subject. It's where the verb goes. A diagram shows the words in the subject of a sentence on the left side, so subject's going on the left side of the vertical line, and the predicate is going to be placed on the right side of that vertical line. The simple subject of a sentence is a key noun or pronoun, or other group of words acting as a noun in the subject. The simple predicate is the verb or verb phrase that expresses the essential thought about the subject. So if we're looking at this example to diagram, we have sheep, which is our subject, and graze is a verb. It's going to go in our predicate. Sheep goes on the left, graze goes on the right, separating the subject from the predicate. Notice that this S is capitalized. You are going to maintain capitalization. You are not, however, going to include punctuation. So that period is not going to be there, and that will be true of all punctuation. Sometimes the subject you is not included in the sentence, but it's understood. You place the understood subject in parentheses to the left of the vertical line where the subject would go. In this example, jump, it's implied that we're saying you jump. So you is going to go in parentheses in the subject position. The J is going to be capitalized because it's the first word in the sentence, even though it's not the first word in our diagram. And we are not going to include that exclamation mark at the end. Go ahead and pause the video now, try these two practice problems, and then unpause the video or hit play to check your work. In our first example, children play, in our diagram we have a subject and a verb, so we're going to put children capitalized on the left-hand side in the subject position, and play is going to go on the predicate side. We are not going to include that period, and we are going to capitalize children. The second one, listen, has an understood subject. We have listen capitalized on the right because that's our predicate, and we have you, the implied subject, in parentheses. Notice that the L is capitalized and the exclamation point is being excluded. A simple subject or simple predicate may have more than one word. For example, someone's full name, or a compound noun like maple sugar. The simple predicate or verb might be a single verb or single word, or it could be a verb phrase. A verb phrase is a verb along with auxiliary and helping verbs. So if I said had been moving, had been are auxiliary verbs. Moving is the key or main verb. You're going to place all simple subject words on the left and all simple predicate verbs on the right. In the example, Miss Ramona Rodriguez is the subject of the sentence. It's multi-word, but it's all her name, so that goes in the subject place. Had been waiting is a verb phrase. The main verb is waiting. Had been or has been are auxiliary verbs that are helping our main verb. So they all go on the right hand side. Remember again to keep capitalization as it is in the original. So all the words of our proper noun Miss Ramona Rodriguez are going to be capitalized. A sentence phrased as a question is diagrammed the same as a statement. So you're going to position the subject and the predicate on the left and right sides respectively, just as we've been working with. You are also going to keep the capitalization the same as the original and omit punctuation. So can ducks fly? Fly is our verb. Ducks are the ones doing the flying. Ducks fly. Can is a helping verb. It's auxiliary. So we're going to have can fly on the predicate side and ducks on the subject side. Notice that C is still capitalized and we've left the question mark off. Notice also that this question sentence is the same as a statement. Ducks can fly is a statement rather than a question. They are diagrammed exactly the same way. Take a moment again to pause the video and try these 4 problems. Unpause the video when you're ready to check your work. In the first one, Kim is concentrating. Kim is our subject. She's the one doing the action. And is concentrating is our verb. Concentrating is the thing that she is doing. That's our main verb. Is a helping verb. The second one, Professor White will speak. We have a compound noun for our subject. I'm going to abbreviate here. You should not on your paper. Professor White is our subject and will speak is our verb. Speak is the main verb. Will is the helping verb. Have you eaten is a question, but we're going to diagram it just like a sentence. You is going to go in our subject place. Have capitalized. Eaten is going to go on the right. Can Jackie Smith sing is going to be similar in that Jackie Smith goes in the subject position, and can sing is going to go in the predicate position. Sing is our main verb, can is our helping verb. All right, let's move on now to compound subjects and predicates. A compound subject is made up of 2 or more simple subjects that are joined by a conjunction, such as and, but, or, and have the same verb. To diagram a sentence with a compound subject, it has a fork at the baseline, like you see here. You draw parallel horizontal lines. Write each of the 2 subjects on the 2 prongs of the fork. The dotted line in between connects your 2 prongs, and that is where you put your conjunction. So in this example, you have adults and children cheered. You have your 2 subjects, that compound subject. You have and, the conjunction that's joining them together. And then the rest of this is just the same as those that we've done so far with the predicate on the right. Please note that if you have a correlative conjunction, such as both adults and children's, you need to include both of these conjunctions on the line, one above and one below that dotted line connecting our compound subject. Take a moment now to try these 2 practice problems, and then when you're done trying them, hit play and we'll continue. All right, so for this first one, you have Phyllis or you may win. So that's where our diagram is going to be split between the subject and predicate. I'm going to go ahead and write may win over here since that's our easy piece. And then for Phyllis or you, that's a compound noun. So we're going to draw a prong that says Phyllis on the top, since that's the first one, and you on the bottom. We have a dotted line and we have the word or to indicate that that's a correlative that is a conjunction. The second one, Coach Bush and Miss Lou officiated, has a similar sort of format. So we're going to have a prong followed by just the normal predicate space. So I'm going to go ahead and write officiated. And then I'm going to have my 2 nouns, Coach Bush, Miss Lou, my dotted line in between the 2, and the conjunction and is on that line. Next, we're going to look at compound predicates. A compound predicate or compound verb is going to be very similar to a compound subject, except we're talking about the verbs now. So in our diagram, the fork prong is going to be on the predicate side of the diagram rather than on the subject side. So in this example, contestants is our subject, but we have 2 things that our subjects are doing. They're running or swimming. So ran goes on the top, swam goes on the bottom. We have our dotted line that indicates we've got a conjunction or. All right, next we're going to look at a compound predicate with an unrepeated verb. So if a helping verb is not repeated, you're going to be writing it on the baseline between the vertical line and that pronged fork. So for example, if contestants were either running or swimming, we aren't repeating the helping verb were. Constants were either running or were swimming. So because we don't have that twice in our sentence, we only need to represent it once in the diagram. So as you can see here, after you have that vertical line and begin your predicate, you've got were, and then the diagram begins to branch off into the two prongs of the fork. Everything else in this one is the same. Go ahead and pause the video again, take a moment to diagram these two practice sentences, and then continue by hitting play to check your work. All right, in this one we have we as our simple subject, and when we get to the other side things get a little bit more complicated because we competed but we also lost. So we have our fork on that side, our dotted line with the word but holding together that conjunction. So then in the next one, we again have a simple subject, kites. Our kites are doing two things this time. They are soaring or soared, and they also dipped. And on this one, both and is going to be a correlative conjunction, so I'm going to write one above and one below that dotted line. Next, we have the compound subject and compound predicate, so we're going to put the two ideas together. We have a fork on the left for our compound subject, Lee and Juan, and we have a fork on the right because we also have watched and waited. Notice that you have the forks exactly as we were practicing, and it's just this tiny little line in the center dividing the subject from the predicate, though now they're a little bit more complicated. A compound subject or a compound predicate might have more than two parts. So if this happens, you're going to need to draw as many parallel horizontal lines in the fork as there are parts shown. So in this example, Lee, Juan, Sue, and Dorothy are all the subjects. So you can see in the prong, there are 4 prongs for each of their name, and the one dotted line with the and holding them all together. These 4 are also entering, watching, and waiting. So on our predicate side, we have to have the 3 prongs for each of those verbs to be, along with our dotted line for the conjunction. As you can see, these can get pretty big and messy if there are lots of subjects or predicates, so be careful with your drawings here. Go ahead and take a moment, pausing the video to try these 2, and then unpause when you're ready to move forward and see your work. In the first one, we have 3 subjects, men, women, and children. So my fork is going to have 3 prongs on it. I have men capitalized, women lowercase, and children. And is my conjunction, so that's what I'm going to write there. And then I have a simple predicate, participated, so that's going to go on the right. All right, this next one is a question, so we're going to be diagramming it just like a statement, even though that means mixing up the words a little bit. Will Lois, Matt, or you compete or watch? We have our compound subject there, and we also are going to have a compound verb with a helping verb will. So this one's going to have our 3 prongs on the subject side, Lois, Matt, you, and our or. And on the right side, we need to leave a little bit of space because we have to get will capitalized, our helping verb, and then the 2 things that may be happening, the compete and the watch. Don't forget that dotted line with our conjunction or. Finally, we have complete subjects and complete predicates. As we started talking about this lesson, everything on the right is the predicate and everything on the left is the subject. So in the example, George, in excellent physical condition, ran the fastest of all in one. That's where divide is. There are lots of other words. We're going to worry about those later. Go ahead and try these two practice problems. We'll check them in class.